What's up, guys? Jeff Aulick here. I am driving on my way. We're playing in Texas this weekend, and I've been dying to get a video out, and this is all I got time for. And so, unflattering video, and no guitar playing in it. I'm getting over a cold, and we're just there it is. We're just rolling with it. Okay, today I want to talk about tube amps versus modelers, and we can include in the discussion, plugins, and we can talk about, what's that other thing? Solid state amps. Okay, I'm going to go through my journey of everything I've played that's gotten me to reach my conclusions that I have, and stick around for the end because I'm gonna have a little rant about silent stages, and playing modelers. But overall, my view of the situation is play the right gear for the gig, right? Whatever the gig calls for. If it's a fly date, you're gonna fly with a little modeler of some sort, HX Stomp, or one of the UA pedals. Or if it's like, if it's a big gig where you can play a big rig, we just did a tour with Leonard Skinner and ZZ Top, and that required a 412 and a 50 watt amp, and so you play the right rig for the gig. Okay, here's my little journey that I've been on, and I'm talking about reliability. Okay, so I started out my professional career. I was playing a Mesa Lone Star Special. It died at one point. And then I think it was a simple repair, but after that I didn't trust it. I couldn't get it to not fart out on me. So then I went to matchless style rig. Actually, their first amp I got from this particular brand, who's no longer in business, was like an AC30, or like a 15, or sorry, AC15, a little 15 watt version, and that was great. But then I ended up having to send that back, and they sent me a 30 watt kind of matchless DC30 style amp, and that was great for a couple of years, and then ended up having some sort of problem with it. I think I took it to Shaw in Nashville, because I was playing at downtown at the time, and I started having problems with tube amps a lot there. And this was probably right before Brown Box, or before I could afford a Brown Box. So yeah, had that worked on. Then sold it, I took it. I stopped gigging with it because I didn't trust it on a gig anymore. And so then I just went to a Fender Hot Rod. That was great for a little while, and then I blew the mains transformer, whatever that means. Had to have that replaced on it, and then finally I didn't want to deal with it anymore and sold that. Then I wanted to upgrade, so I got a Bogner Shiva, and that was a really cool amp, and I really enjoyed it. With the 112, which was great. And then I started having some problems with that, and so then I sold that and I couldn't afford anything at the time to replace it, so I got a Quilter, and the little Quilter 101 mini head, and from a reliability standpoint, that thing's fantastic. Sound-wise, it's okay. It gets the job done. It's cool, and I still use it as a backup out on the road to this day, so I don't have to bring out two, full-size heads. That thing lives in a little cubby somewhere, and if there's a problem, I can just, 3 cable swaps and we're back in business. So, from a reliability standpoint, that thing's been solid. But then I was using that, and I blew the speaker because I was still using the Bogner cab, and I was like, this sucks, what am I gonna do now? And I bought a Kemper. I sold I still had the Shiva. I sold that, and I bought a Kemper with that money. And I used the Kemper for a little while. It was cool. I think modelers are great. I don't have a problem with them. But, it's kind of bored. I got bored of the tone really quick. And I had the powered version, so I replaced the speaker in my Bogner cab and was able to drive the speaker, and that was cool. But it felt like too much, I guess, rig for what I was doing downtown, and I sold that. And I wanted to get back into tube amps, so then I sold that and I bought a Third Power, and that's how I got hooked up with Third Power. I bought it used, but I fell in love with that amp. It's a British Dream. It's great. I really love the Marshall channel. The AC30 style channel is really great as well. I use that one less, but it's still fantastic. So, so that's how I got it with the Third Power thing. Going through the house amp downtown at Honky Tonk Central, because I was playing there a lot, and they had a JTM 45 with a 412. That was really fun, but it didn't sound great. It sounded really gross, really bright and hashy. And either channel, it just something wasn't right with it. But since I had earplugs in, which always wear earplugs or in-ears or something, protect your ears. Since I had those in, it was taming off all the top end, and I was content with that. But when I would pull my earplugs out, it was like, woof, this is gross sounding. And so I used that for like a couple of months, and then finally it was like, all right, we got to do something. So then I bought an HX Stomp, and I loved that thing. I still love that thing. I think it's fantastic. I had my whole entire rig downtown on Broadway was the little HX Stomp and a 2-button preset up and down, and I would literally just have and a boost, and I literally just had clean, dirty tap tempo preset up and down and a solo boost, and then if I had a special preset with effects, some chorus on it or tremolo or something, and I like to keep the cabs consistent for a whole show, or for all the presets, just so they all have that similar EQ that one particular cab will put on it. So if the sound guy is dialing in the sound, the EQ swing isn't all over the place. That thing was great. And then I got, from there, I started working. I left downtown because COVID hit, and it was a good time for me to be done with that, close that chapter, because I was there for 7 years. And so then I started working at Third Power and purchased a kitchen sink, and I love that amp. That amp is fantastic. It covers everything for me that I would ever need, plus more. I'm using that one, and then I got the Blackhawk and Outlaws gig, and the band leader said, hey, you'll probably want a 412 for this gig. And I had just come from HX Stomp territory. I was also going direct at church, so I was using a Pod Go there. Still great. I don't have a problem, going direct. But this was my first time, really having my own rig with my own 412. And it's a big rig. And I have the volume ducked down quite a bit. But it's great. So I guess that would encompass, 90% of my journey with tube amps and solid state amps and direct modelers and profilers, and the only thing, plugins. The Neural DSP plugins are great. I really like those. And I use them for demos. I don't use them for, if I'm recording demo, stuff like that. Or if I'm on the road and need to record something, I'll bring out a little interface and, use that, like recording on the bus, which is very rare. But I've done it like once or twice. So yeah. My perspective is you use the right thing for the room, for the gig, right? But also from a reliability standpoint, I've had everything go down on me pretty much, except for that quilter. That hasn't happened. And now that I have a great relationship with Third Power, if there's a problem, they fix it right away, and there hasn't hardly been any problems. So it's been great. Little traffic. Okay. But reliability, I use an HX Effects on the road right now. And that thing has gone down on me. So we played a couple dates in Texas where it was like, it felt like 130 degrees on the stage, the black stage, baking in the sun. So if it gets too hot, that thing that went down. I have a one spot. The powers, I think it's the CS6 that powers my whole rig. I had one of those die on me. True Tone is fantastic. They sent me another one right away, and they're gonna repair the old one so that I have a backup. Fantastic company. I'm excited to go meet them and I'll be working with them and refer them because it's great. But I had, one gear hiccup with that, and luckily we had another guy out on the road that had a backup power supply that I could use for the weekend to get me through. Let's see what else has gone down. Wirelesses, where you can't find a signal, especially if there's a router somewhere nearby the stage. You can't get any traction signal. I've had cables go down. I've had everything go down. And so from a reliability standpoint, I don't consider modelers to be more reliable than tube amps. They all have their problems. Everything's gonna go down. So my perspective, or what I've come up with, is just to have a backup for everything, right? So if a speaker blows in my 412, I can isolate and go to a 212 on the bottom or something. I can isolate the problem, go to 8 ohms. Or if an amp dies, for whatever reason, I have that backup quilter head. If my pedal board dies, I can still get through the gig with just the foot switch for my Third Power going clean, dirty, and boost. I can still get through the gig. If you have a guitar problem, you have a backup guitar, right? Or at least we only travel with 2 guitars. We keep it pretty, streamlined in that regard. Of course, I'd be missing out on delays and effects or something like that if my pedal board went down, but it's not a showstopper, What else? I pretty much have a backup for everything. Of course, backup cables, and I'm not concerned. I've had so many situations with something going down that it's, I'm not concerned about it because I can be up and running within, less than a minute. I did have one when the HX Stomp went out, or HX Effects, sorry. When that one went down, we were playing a festival and it died, and normally it'll pass signal, but I tried to reboot it and it got frozen in the reboot process, and then all of a sudden it's like, and it is blaring this high-pitched squeal, and I didn't know what the heck that was, and so I flipped it off and it powered off, and from the boot sequence, and that was that was a bad one. For the most part, I can just go switch, cool, and we'll figure it out pretty quick. But yeah, okay. So from a reliability standpoint, they're equal. I feel like if you have a modeler of some sort, you're gonna have to have a backup anyways. If you have the Quad Cortex, have a Tonex there that you can go clean dirty, or if you have, whatever your modeler is, have some sort of backup. And then let's see, from a sound standpoint, I lean towards having the tube amp and the volume on stage and stuff, and the tone of the real amp. But I can get down with a modeler just fine. I like, if I'm setting up my gear myself, of course it's easier to have just the little rig, of course. But sometimes it's worth it to bring out a combo amp or something like that, depending on the size of the gig, or for the tour or whatever you're doing. So my preference is to go with a real amp, but again, always have a backup systems in place for whatever might go down. All right, I just had to interject this real quick because I forgot to mention it, or I touched on it briefly. But my other issue with modelers is, if you're a new guy to the modeling thing, or profiling, or pick your digital silent stage amp of choice. I touched on this, but those amps, the temptation is to do play a Fender Twin for your clean, and an AC30 for your edge of breakup, and your Marshall for your crunch, and your Soldano or Friedman or something like that for your lead tone or something like that. And if you pick drastically different amps, right, with drastically different cabs, those younger sound guys that I talked about, they will oftentimes set it and forget it, right? So they'll hear your tone for the first song, and they'll make their EQ adjustments. Hopefully it's flat, that would be cool, but if not, they'll make their EQ adjustments for whatever that first song or two is. Oh, don't want my phone to fall. Okay. And then they will, head out and go, set it and forget it, and go have their drinks or their food or their dinner or whatever. And you'll be changing presets, and all of a sudden your crunch sound is too scooped in the house, and again, you can't hear it because those EQ adjustments were made. So just a little note, if my method of doing this is to keep the cab consistent among all the amps that I use. Is that the best way? Probably not, but that's what I've found works. And then I try to pick amps that are kind of consistent with each other. I don't know. That's my other issue. If you have a great sound guy, then this is a totally irrelevant point. But so yeah, that, and then okay, here's my big problem with the modelers and the silent stages. I have two. The first one's a selfish one. The first one is that for me, if I'm going to listen to the opening band and I'm standing side stage, I can't hear a single thing that the guitar player is playing. You have to be out in front of the speakers to hear, which makes sense, of course. But for me, I can't enjoy the opening acts or the headliners if there's not stage volume for them to, be playing through. And then, but I know that's selfish. That's just on my side of things, you know, like if they have a drummer who's playing on an electric kit as well, I hear the donk 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 on the pads louder than I hear, you know, the drum sounds, because I'm standing side stage. I know that's a totally selfish point, but the second reason why I have a hard time with modelers and, you know, profilers, whatever, silent stage, is the younger sound guys, not the pros. The pros do it just fine. Not, you know, the guys that are really skilled, but the young sound guys, you know, that are mixing, what I've found is they don't mix it loud enough. They mix it like, you know, if they're given a certain dB level for a tube amp, they only give that same level for a, you know, a modeler as well. And it really, where they have it sit is all the hashy top end in the mix, the of your overdrive tone. That's what's cutting through their mix. And so you don't get the fullness and the body that you would of having some volume on stage. And so, yeah, that's my problem. That's really my problem, is that a lot of sound guys, not all of them, of course, I'm making huge, broad statements, generalizations here, but a lot of sound guys don't mix it the same as if there's volume coming off the stage. And so that is where I struggle. All you hear is plink, 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 plink on your, you know, on your lead lines, and on your chords you hear that hashy top end, and that's it. And, you know, I grew up listening to guitar bands. Well, anyways, my favorite bands are guitar bands, you know, AC/DC and Guns N' Roses and Led Zeppelin, and, you know, pick your guitar band, right? Where there's so much body in the guitar that's filling up the sound, right? And I don't feel like that's captured the same way as when, you know, when you have modelers on stage. Again, huge generalization, but if you have, let's say, just that hashy top end, and you have this massive kick, right? Because the PAs have massive kick, massive bass, you have all this sub frequency where you're feeling the note and you're feeling the root of the note, but you're not able to hear any of the harmonic content of the chords. And then you hear this hashy top end, and then above that you hear the cymbals, and in that gap is the vocal. That's cool. It's really carved out and everything, and it sounds really pristine, but you miss all of that harmonic content of what the chords are really doing. And, you know, I don't know. That's my take on it. That's what I have a problem with. Of course, at the top levels, that's not the case. Those guys really know how to mix those things. And then, you know, of course, along the way, you'll have sound guys that do know how to mix it well. But I feel like, you know, I always feel like there's a hole in the mix when it's a silent stage, or I often feel that way. I'm learning how to talk to this camera, so forgive my rambling nonsense, but at least I'm not whispering this time. And hopefully the lighting's okay. I know it's daylight and it's shifting all over the place and it's cloudy, but thank you for sticking around to the end. I'm having a good time with this YouTube thing. I appreciate it, you know, all of you who have liked and commented and subscribed. I've gotten, like, you know, handful of subscribers since the last video, and I didn't even say anything on that one. Actually, that's not true. I rambled and said the same thing 4 times in a row, so that was fun. But thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and come back for more. We'll make some more videos. Maybe I'll rant some more while I drive to the bus. All right, peace out.